if you want to recording. So welcome, Troy Smith. Troy is the Director of Equity and Inclusion and Outreach for the town, which is, as I understand it, a new position. I think Troy is the first one to hold this position, so we're super excited to have him join us and hear all about what he's been up to so far, what he's hoping to accomplish, challenges, successes, and so forth. Troy, what we often do is do brief introductions of the other participants on the call. I think that might particularly be useful to you since there may be folks here you haven't met yet. So why don't we start in with that now? Elaine, want to say hi?
Elaine Ostroff, longtime advocate for people with disabilities, part of, well, that's enough for now. Thank you. Welcome.
Thanks, Elaine. Martin, who do you have with you there at MetroWorks?
I will start with Kathleen and the side of the table.
Hi, Troy. I'm Kathleen Donovan. I'm a 34-year resident of Natick. I'm on the library's board of trustees, so I work with Mickey Wolf. And I also volunteer with Keep Natick Beautiful. So thank you for coming.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I'm Cindy Bates, a 4.5-year resident of Natick. I'm a trail steward for the CWAP Trail. I pick up at Coolidge Field and otherwise just interested in what's going on in town.
And I'm Martin Kessel. I'm helping with technology over here at MetroWorks. And I am, as far as my town roles, I've been on town meeting for about 24 years, trying to keep track of the years. That's hard. And I'm chair of the Open Space Advisory Committee in town. And that's it for here.
All right, thanks. Tom?
Tom Daly. I'm a town meeting member. I've been living in Natick now for about 34 years. And I'm a racial and climate activist. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Paul?
Good morning, Troy. We know each other. I work for the town like Troy, and I love the work he's accomplished so far. I love seeing him walk around town with me. So good to see you, Troy.
Right. Thank you. Good to see you, Paul.
Thanks, Paul. Susan?
Hi, I'm Susan Simone Kang. I'm an attorney and also a coach for first generation law students and helping law students pass the bar. I practice immigration law and I am part of the Natick Welcoming Immigration Policy Coalition. And I've also worked on Kristen Pope and Catherine Burnell's campaigns.
Nice. Thanks, Susan. Bill?
Hi, Bill Ramage. I've worked with Pat Conaway and Keep Natick Beautiful. I'm a trail steward at Pig and Cove. Most recently, I am joined the Community Preservation Committee, so I'm serving on that board right now. And welcome. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Carol? Got to come off mute, Carol.
How's that? Is that
Yep.
better?
Yep.
Thank you. So I'm Carol Berkowitz. I've lived in Natick over 50 years. I live on Lake Cochituate and I'm a town meeting member. And when I was a special ed teacher in Framingham for 30 years, I had many Metco students. So good morning.
Good
Thanks.
morning.
Thanks, Carol. Chris Gentry?
Good morning. I'm Chris Gentry. I've been a Natick resident for about 24 years now, and I've started joining these meetings just to get more informed about Natick, but really interested to hear what you have to say today. Thanks.
Right.
Chris? Rick?
Yes. Hi, Troy. We met briefly at Natick Days in the fall, early on in your tenure. It's nice to see you again. I'm a town meeting member from Precinct 8 and volunteer with Eco Natick and Keep Natick Beautiful. And thanks for coming today.
All right. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Rick. Catherine?
Hi, my name is Catherine Doran. I have lived in Natick for 29 years. Well, maybe TMI, but my Virginia ancestors were slaveholders and built what is still our family home. So yeah, complicated stuff. And Troy, I'm really looking forward to hearing what you're doing with and for our town. So nice to meet you.
Right, thank you.
Thanks, Catherine. Brinley.
Good morning, Troy. We've met a bunch of times. I'm sorry, I'm not on camera today. I'm a 23-year member of resident of Natick. I was on the Pay As You Throw Task Force and the Recycling Committee way back when that's what it was. And I'm a second term town meeting member. And I'm so glad that you're able to join us now. I'm glad to have you in town. I've watched a couple of your speeches. I think it's wonderful. So thank you for being here today.
Good to see you again, Brinley.
Thanks, Brinley. Sarah?
Hi, I'm Sarah. Hannah, Doug, and I have been here in Natick for 42 years, something like that. I both retired. I'm a geologist by training and interested in environmental stuff. Spent my career doing hazardous waste site cleanup, which, you know, can't think of the word, spacing out, affects communities of color and less economic circumstance more disproportionately. So that's kind of was my window into some of the world of how unfair our society can be. Town meeting member, and like Bill, recently appointed to the Community Preservation Committee.
Wonderful. Good
Great.
to see you.
And I'm Doug. I moderate this group. Troy, I think I met you last Juneteenth. You probably had been in your new position all of just a few weeks, and I was already hounding you to come to this group, and you very rightly said, wait, just give me a chance. So super happy to have you here now. And we'll turn it over to you.
All right, thank you so much.
I'm sorry, I hate to interrupt you. I did see that Sally just joined, and I won't keep interrupting you after.
Oh, no,
but-
please.
Sally, do you want to say hi? Or maybe she's actually not ready yet. That's fine. Go take it away, Troy. Yeah.
All right, wonderful. It's so great to be here with you. One of the things that I wanted to do, I wanted to be able to share a visual. So I just wanted to see if I would have the share screen capacity.
Yeah, that should be turned on for you if you just go to the, I think, the bottom of your screen or however you normally share your screen.
Okay, let's just check on that real quick. Okay. Right. All right. Let me just close this. So I'm gonna. Right. So yeah, I think I should be good. So all right.
Yeah, good.
I don't know if
Yeah, we're seeing your desktop now.
okay. All right, let's see. All right, I'm just gonna. All right, so I'm gonna do a new share, and this may be up. Okay, great.
Good.
Okay. All right. So the title of my presentation for this morning is Building Bridges to Unity, Navigating Natick's Path to Inclusion. Dear members of Coffee with a Purpose, esteemed guests, and as I can hear from so many descriptions, fellow advocates for change. I extend my heartfelt gratitude for this opportunity to gather on behalf of Natick, having spent the past year immersing myself in the vibrant tapestry of Natick's community. I'm deeply inspired by the dedication and resilience that I have witnessed firsthand. Before we delve into our discussion, I must express my sincere appreciation to Select Board member Kristen Pope for connecting me with event organizers Doug Hanna and Mark Kessel. As we embark on our journey toward unity and inclusivity in Natick, we must begin with a draft land acknowledgement. Today, we gather on the ancestral lands of the Nipmuc and Massachusetts peoples, and we acknowledge the legacy of the praying Indians of Natick. We recognize their enduring connection and the painful history of colonization and multiple dispossessions. Let us learn, listen, and respect the indigenous voices and spirits of the past and present. Just want to say this has been an ongoing area that has been worked on. Again, this is not the official land acknowledgement, but the point is that it's so critical that we get to one that will be one that is agreed upon, that has gone through engagement and discussion with the various tribes and going through the select board. That is the plan, but that just is an example of something that's been worked on and that we consider to be very critical in our work. So just wanted to share that. The acknowledgement underscores our commitment to honor the indigenous peoples who have stewarded this land for generations, reminding us of the importance of humility and respect as we navigate our shared path forward. It is incumbent upon us not to only acknowledge the injustices of the past, but also to commit to real and meaningful action in our pursuit of justice and reconciliation. I think one of the things that we recently talked about, you may have heard about the REACH team that was developed, where we go to Boston, to the federal building, and we work with other municipalities. In a recent discussion, we expressed the point that oftentimes land acknowledgements can become performative. And we want to just emphasize the importance of making sure that it involves active engagement. And I must say at the beginning, we have more work to do on that area. But we're at least trying to move the ball forward, and there's more to come in this process. But getting that draft is important. I have to say for myself, one of the most fascinating parts of my journey when I first arrived to Natick was just starting to learn about the history. After I took care of my official paperwork to get signed up, I connected with Mickey Wolf, and immediately I had 5 books on the history of Natick that I took home and started reading for the next several weeks, and it's been ongoing. I find the history fascinating, but most importantly, though, is the engagement that we do today. And I guess that becomes an interesting question, no matter what area we're in. If we're interested in issues of social justice in Natick, what is our level of engagement? What is our level of conversation with the people that we want to work in partnership with and that we want to be able to hear? And I always said that for me, my first objective in this process was to listen, was to hear what folks have to say. I think if you come into a situation and you say, hey, I have a scalpel and a wrench, that's the wrong approach. You have to be able to hear the voices, hear the stories, hear the concerns. And as much of that as we can do, we're always in a better position. And I'd say that's for those of us who are employees and those of us who may be political figures, to actually be able to hear, what the people have to say, and to see what it is that we can do to engage people in the process. The interesting thing that stands out to me, that it's not always what it is that we think it is or what our agendas might be. What people have to say may be very different. So we never want to assume what the right prescription is. So I think those are some of the points that stand out for me. As we reflect upon our shared commitment to equity, inclusion, and justice, I'm reminded of the challenges faced by communities across our nation. I know that folks here are hearing the headlines. Quite frankly, there's a lot of pushback against DEI across the nation. There are places where it's literally been outlawed. That's pretty significant. I don't have to point to any particular states, but I have to say Florida certainly makes the news quite a bit. And there are others. And we sometimes see headlines even in Massachusetts where there are reasons to pause for concern. I think very often we take what can be social justice and we turn it into terms in a way that's pejorative. And I think a lot of times that's intentional because it seems to otherize the process, when in reality, and I'll never forget having a conversation with an individual from Natick who, this person is from the Nipmuc tribe, and one of the things that she said to me, it's not about DI, it's about rights. And that was a very important point. So how do we deal with issues of social justice in a way that's non-polarizing? Very often we create dichotomies of right and left, but in reality, in order to get to really good solutions, reasonable people from all sides of the spectrum have to be able to intersect. It takes a wide range of perspectives to work on common problems. So how do we do that without demonizing each other? I know there's a word that's often used around whether it's DI or other issues in terms of conscious raising or the racial awakening that supposedly took place after the tragic murder of George Floyd, where people are talking about folks being woke. Quite frankly, that term really turns me off. There was a time not too long ago when we just used to call it being socially conscious. It's pretty simple, but there's the pejorative terminology that's often created, and we've got to get past that, because there are problems that affect us all. It's not just a Black problem. It's not just a Indigenous people problem. It's not just a minority problem. It's a human challenge. The reality is, in the United States of America, is that folks who are often very much in poverty are white folks. So the point is that we have to be able to look at what are the common problems in terms of where we are at, as opposed to attachment to privilege. That and we have to maybe be able to let some of that ideology go in the process, because we can only work together if we can find levels of common ground and of mutual respect. And so I think that those are some of the things that are important. One of the things that I have found very hopeful in Natick is that I feel like I've been able to talk to a wide range of people from a wide range of perspectives. There may be those perspectives out there that I haven't heard from yet, and perhaps that'll be coming down the line, particularly after this presentation. But my point is that we have to find a way to be able to do that. And I'll just say this: we have to also be able to learn from history. We have to be able to go back and look at what happened after the Civil War with Reconstruction. There was a conscious attempt to try to rectify. There was a conscious attempt where there was language such as 40 acres and a mule. Now, if you think about it, the people who really knew a lot about farming would have been those individuals who were slaves, who built the land, who built the infrastructure and the economy, and really, when you talk about free labor, that's what you're doing. So the fact that, as Dr. King said, the American Negro was, has been handed a blank check that has come back marked insufficient funds, at least in terms of statements. I mean, the funds are quite plentiful. And we have to be able to recognize that when we talk about structural inequality, let's not just look at the South. That becomes pretty easy in our, oftentimes with, Northern liberalism, which I've, been in New England for a long time, including going to college in Maine. I've had a chance to see a lot over the years, and I love New England. But we have to also be self-critical, self-reflective. And that's not a negative thing. That should not make us feel bad. What it should do is give us an opportunity to learn, to engage, and to recognize that history is not just the good. Please, when you hear folks talk about things such as critical race theory, we're talking about just being able to expand and being able to appreciate all sides of history. It's not just 1776, it's 1619. All of it is part of the same narrative. And I think we would want to get a broader perspective, a broader view. And that's important. So I digressed a little bit, but I think those were some important points to get in. But I would just say, in terms of, we can always talk about some more specifics, but I just want to maybe talk about a few fundamental points that I think have been helpful in terms of how I've been trying to approach doing equity, inclusion, and outreach in Natick. For me, I like to emphasize foundational principles of equity and inclusion. I would say, let us infuse every facet of our community with the principles of fairness and belonging. And I would add, in a sense of welcoming. In our policies, practices, and interactions, let us ensure that every individual feels valued and respected. Data as a catalyst for change. Let us harness the power of data to illuminate the path toward progress and recognize that behind every data point lies a narrative, a story waiting to be heard. Let us listen with empathy, learn with humility, and act with purpose. Forging connections beyond borders. Third foundational point. Our community extends beyond the confines of our township. Let us reach out to neighboring towns, organizations, and allies to amplify our impact and share and collect wisdom from a wide range of people. One of the things that I'm happy about is that I'm starting to have conversations with counterparts in Framingham. So again, being able to see what are some common concerns in the Metro West area. All those things are important. I know one of the things that we're talking about and really working actively on is actually being able to reach precincts that are often considered little underrepresented in town hall. That's certainly an issue. Certainly I know about the floating quorum and some of the other issues that have come up. But the reality, no matter what policies are enacted, the important thing is that the outreach needs to continue. The work needs to be continued, and relationships need to be built. One of the things that we are working on and in the process of making happen with dates, and that'll be announced later once that's finalized, but we're looking at doing a mobile town hall in terms of, and when I say a mobile town hall, I don't necessarily mean a vehicle dropping out, but at least individuals from town staff who can get out directly to some of the precincts of concern in terms of being able to make more direct connections. And that may mean having a conversation, being able to listen to concerns. But part of that process is also what are some ways we can encourage folks to come in to the center of town or into directly into the downtown area, or perhaps how we can actually bring some services more directly to individuals. So those are some of the areas that we're working on. And there's a whole range of things that we can look at when we're talking about being able to do outreach. That's important. Then championing social justice. Let us be steadfast in our commitment to justice. Let us confront systemic injustices with courage and compassion, recognizing that the journey toward healing begins with acknowledging the pain of the past. As we reflect upon our shared commitment to equity, inclusion, and justice, I am reminded of the words of Robert F. Kennedy during his visit to Cape Town in 1966 amid the apartheid era in South Africa, when he said, and I'm just want to paraphrasing it slightly to make it inclusive, each time an individual stands up for an ideal or acts to improve the lot of others, they send forth a tiny ripple of hope. In our collective efforts to champion social justice in Natick, let us be those individuals who send forth tiny ripples of hope, inspiring change and progress with every action we take. Furthermore, Maya Angelou beautifully encapsulated the essence of diversity when she said, "We all should know that diversity makes for a rich tapestry, and we must understand that all the threads of the tapestry are equal in value, no matter their color." In Natick, we celebrate this richness of diversity and recognize that each member of our community brings unique experiences, perspectives, and talents to the table. It is through honoring and embracing this diversity that we weave a stronger, more vibrant tapestry of unity and understanding. Your dedication and tireless efforts have laid the foundation for progress in our community. Together, we can build a Natick where diversity thrives and every individual's voice is heard. As we continue on this journey, I invite each of you to reflect on a couple of questions. One question I'll pose is, what's keeping you up late at night? What are those concerns that perhaps has you looking on social media, maybe more than you want to? What are those conversations that can sometimes make a Thanksgiving dinner a little difficult, you know, at the table? But what are those concerns that are keeping you up at night? I know for me, as a father of a now 9 and 10-year-old boy, it's that they have a brighter future, that the conditions in this society will be even better for them than it was for my generation or the last couple of generations. That's important to me. I would also ask, what steps can we take as individuals to foster a more inclusive community in Natick? It is through our collective action and unwavering commitment that we will chart a course toward a more just and equitable future for all. Thank you, and may our shared commitment to unity and justice guide us on this journey. And I would also just say in closing, let us envision a Natick where the spirit of building bridges prevails. A vision that propels us toward a future where unity is not just a goal, but a lived reality. Let us dare to dream of a community where the bonds of solidarity are unbreakable, where diversity is celebrated, and where every individual feels a sense of belonging. Together, let us forge ahead with courage, compassion, and an unwavering commitment to equity and inclusion for all. Thank you.
Thanks, Troy, for those opening words. Very inspiring, challenging, real. We'll use our usual custom of doing the Zoom raise hand. I see Catherine with her hand up. I also see Paul with his real hand up. Catherine, why don't we go to you first and then Paul?
Thank you, Troy. That was eloquent as well as informative. I am curious to know where we as a community stand in terms of justice for the Nipmuc community. And I will give you a little more of my family background. Through that same Virginia family, I am a 10th great-granddaughter of Pocahontas, and thus, though I identify as white, I am a full member of the Patawomack Indian tribe of Virginia, which is a small tribe because most of it was massacred by English colonists. So I think I feel in my blood and in my DNA the pain and injustice. And so it's really important to me. I know I've heard talk of it, but is anything happening? Has anything happened at this point? Or could you just let me know where we stand in Natick?
Yes, and I just want to say, because some things may be in process and may actually involve other individuals who are involved in the process. I'll give a context of, in some ways, where I think we need to go in order to perhaps get to where you want to go. But I think more of those updates can be maybe talked about a little more individual with some of the other individuals who may be involved in the process because it's a collective effort. But I would say that one of the things that we have to do more of is to actually listen more, to actually have meetings, to actually, and by the way, some of those meetings are happening, they're was the situation that happened last year that I'm sure folks heard about in this, where there's there has been discussions on those things. But I also think, and this is what I would emphasize, that whatever we do, it needs to be proactive with our work with all tribal members, is to be more proactive. And I definitely think there are things that are being done, particularly with other folks who are engaged in this process. So I would say to continue to be proactive, but also to listen to what the concerns are. I mean, I think all those things are critical in the process. More of that has to happen.
Yeah. Thanks for that, Troy. Paul?
Yeah, Troy, I agree with 100%. It begins with us. I've been very active with the local tribe personally. Chief Carringham is one of my dearest friends in the world. She's still on my cover page on Facebook. But being active with them as individuals, not sitting back and watching what's happening, working with the different groups in town, Troy, is very important. You see me all around town trying to be as active as I can. And I'm fortunate in my position with the town where I have a lot of accessibility to a lot of people, and it's very important. I wanted to bring up a point that I feel. I just came back from vacation, my first one in a couple of years. Town doesn't like me to go on vacation, Joy. Get used to it. So I went down to Washington, D.C., one of my favorite spots in the world, in Virginia and Quantico, Virginia, different places. And I came back from vacation. The most common question asked of me. I sat with three people at a coffee shop downtown Natick. I said, "What do you think the most common question asked me since I got back?" Just to show you folks where people's priorities are. What is the most common question asked to me, a Vietnam veteran, when I get back after my vacation from DC and Virginia? Can anybody guess the most common question?
I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, you tell us what.
No, you don't want to play questions and answers. Okay, I understand. No, I already did that yesterday. So, most common question was, "How was your trip to Arlington, Virginia?" No. "How was did you see the White House?" Yes. Get close. I saw Air Force One and Air Force Two taking off from one. That's how close I got. The most common question asked to me: "Did you see any protesters in Washington, D.C.? What is your priorities? Did you see any protesters in Washington, D.C., in Virginia?" My answer was no. And I saw the police cruisers. I saw George Washington University. I drove all around Washington, D.C. And as a D.C. cop said to me, he says, "You know what, Paul," he says, "the difference with the protesters here at George Washington University and those other privileged schools is they're acting like adults. They're nonviolent. And we're sitting here in our cruisers, not letting any agitators through the gate. That's the difference. They handle it right. And your right to protest is because my right to join the Marine Corps. So there."
Respond to that at all, Troy?
You know what? When Paul Carew speaks, I listen. I take it in and I reflect. And I appreciate your points, Paul.
Thank you, man.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting time we're living in. Pat, you've got your hand up. You just got to come off mute there.
It's very interesting discussion and really appreciate Troy, your message. Very inspiring and hopeful. I know the town's been working on this stuff for a while, but I was just curious about the power of the symbols in the way we are trying to appreciate diversity and learn our history. So Natick spent some time on the seal, the town seal, which had a kind of a weird message there with John Elliott with his hand on the Native Americans. And then I think the town is also trying to grapple with, well, you know, you see the seal on almost every street sign all over there. I've borrowed the DPW bins and toters. It's on the bins and toters. I try to cover it up with a sticker or whatever. But I was just curious, how does that, you know, the power of symbolism and stuff, and how we identify ourselves. I'm just curious what, you know, you might think about that, or the other folks in the discussion.
Yeah, my thoughts are that symbolism is powerful, and that one of the things that I appreciate as I look at some of the work that Natick has been doing in that area is that there has been an opportunity for engagement, and that, you know, it's important to, on one hand, you look at, you know, what has been, you have the town seal, but you also have the town logo. So, you know, you have the distinction there, you know, and you see, you know, with the changes that are happening in regards to, looks like with the, you know, with the, with the you know, with those symbols, so you know, you're able to which, you know, you see the bridge, so, you know, hope, and again, you know, people may have different opinions on different aspects of that, but I think the fact that there's been an opportunity to engage and to discuss, I think that's important. I think the symbols are very powerful, but I think to be able to hear what people's thoughts on that are is very important as well. And I think that that there's been a lot of discussion, and folks are being sensitive to it, and trying to make the adjustment, but also recognizing the history as well. But I do think symbolism is very, very powerful. So.
Yeah, certainly. Particularly where they can have multiple interpretations. I mean, how many different things do people think that the older seal or that mural in the post office are actually depicting? Susan, I think you're next.
Yes, thank you so much. And that's exactly where I was about to head, Doug and Sarah, because last year during Juneteenth, we actually had that conversation about the mural. And I just want to respect the nuance that also that Mr. Smith is raising here, which is symbolism is important, and also taking action or showing what we mean through what we do. It is, I was thinking, since our last conversation on Juneteenth, how difficult it is to see a question of interpretation of a white man holding a chain around the neck of Native American individual in a federal post office. And this particular symbol for me, among the others that deservedly also, you know, require conversation, I just find that genocidal statement on our federal property to be just something, it's just not tolerable in a community that seeks to be a beloved community and a welcoming community. It's hard for me, and I'm just saying this honestly, hard for me to see any other interpretation of it. And we discussed the importance and the historical value of that mural and where it belongs, or where it could go, so that the history is not forgotten, while at the same time not endorsed in our town. And I would love to hear Mr. Smith's possible thoughts on ways that we could creatively address this with the community, and what conversations have been held with the community about what they would like to see done with that mural.
Yeah, no, my thoughts are, I hear you on that, and I think a chance to discuss it is a very valuable one. From what I gather, you know, that with it being a federal building, that, you know, one would probably have to also connect with federal channels in the process. You know, so I think you know, that's an important consideration. And I understand, you know, when you talk about the visceral reaction that you can have when you see it. Also, you know, from what at least, and I have, you know, there's more history on that I can learn about, but from what I understand, and Susan, please, you know, jump in there if there's anything I'm leaving out. But from what I understand, I think it came about during around the WPA Roosevelt era, and maybe it was also meant to somehow highlight those tragedies. I'm not making a position here, but I do think that at the very least there should be at least some context to the picture. So if one sees it, that what's being conveyed can be seen, so that if it is in fact an artistic critique of that time and of that era, that one could at least leave with some context and with a chance for reflection. So those are some thoughts on that, at least, you know, from my end.
There's a local historian, Lincoln, I'm forgetting his last name. He did quite a bit of work on Henry Wilson recently, and he's just launched a new project actually specifically about that mural, and he is actively inviting community engagement, or at least for folks to share with him either their stories or thoughts about it. So if I can remember the link, or maybe I'll look at Brinley. She might be able to. She's our trustee. Put links in the chat thing to find a resource to do that.
And I would just follow up, Doug, if I could, with you and Susan. I want to make sure that I'm accurate in terms of what I was from what I was remembering. Was the mural developed during the WPA period?
Yes, yeah, you are right about that. And
Okay.
in some of the materials that Lincoln's put out so far, he has actually a link to an article about the artist that produced it and some of his other works. I think a lot in other post offices or federal buildings.
Yeah.
So, Sarah, I know you want something you wanted to say, and then I think Tom was up next.
Yeah, as I'm listening to this discussion about the mural and town symbols, my mind is going back to a few years ago, before you were here, Troy, when there was the first thing that I recall that kind of wrestled with these issues in town was the high school team name was the Natick Redmen, and they had a logo of like an Indian in a headdress. And several years ago, there was a move to change it, which ultimately prevailed, but it created a lot of angst and turmoil in town, and people say, you know, this is to honor Native Americans. And it was just interesting to me to think about the concept of where does insult or disrespect arise. You know, people who loved the symbol said, no, 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 this is tradition. We mean this as respect for Native Americans. They're strong and fierce, and this is what we want our team to be like. And other people said, no, this is not even what the local people, Native people looked like. You know, you're making a caricature and a stereotype, and it's insulting. And it was just interesting to me to see that huge, huge disconnect of what does this symbol mean? And even if I mean it in a good way, if you take it in an insulting and disrespectful way, what do we do about that? And I think that's at the root of so much of these discussions. And somehow I feel like if we could think about that as a society, that might help us to move past some of this terrible, just getting locked into a position, and kind of what you were saying earlier of just, you know, no, 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 I'm not gonna talk about this. I'm not gonna engage. And so I don't have a specific solution, but I feel like that needs to be part of the discussion to figure out, what does this mean to me, and what does it mean if it means something completely opposite to you? So that's what I had to say.
Yeah, no, great. And I mean, I think the forum that you all have here is such a wonderful way to get some of these positions out and to, have coffee and conversation.
Yeah. Tom?
Yeah. This is I call it a minority report on the new town seal. I went down to the open discussion they had in the library. One of the things I said was, where's the Nipmuc people? Where are they? They're not on the seal. I felt they should be on. So I put that in. As I was walking out, I ran into two Nipmuc Indians. And they said exactly the same thing. And our input was to not an issue. It was not to be put in, and they were not happy about it. That's all. These two Nipmuc Indians were not happy about it. So I just want to let you know that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Sure.
Yeah, thanks for that input. Brinley, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, while you were, once you asked the question about what keeps us up at night, and previously when you were talking, you had mentioned the Amendment C about the floating quorum, and I just will go ahead and go on record that after we passed the Article 2 this past spring annual town meeting that allows us the opportunity to rescind articles that I am actually already in process to put an warrant article on to rescind Amendment C this coming fall annual town meeting, because it definitely keeps me up at night. It's kept me up at night since the last time when it passed. I had enough votes for it to be deleted from it in last fall, and then we did it on a night when people had left and other people weren't there, and it was close. It's like the closest vote I've ever seen since I've been in town meeting, certainly. And so I was very fascinated and interested to hear you mention that particular thing, Troy. And I will just say that it upsets me, and I am working on it.
Great. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, thanks, Brinley. Pat?
Yeah, I was gonna just ask Brinley, and Troy, I'm not familiar with Article E. What was it basically?
So the article I mentioned was this past fall, where we passed the rest of the articles amending our charter that the CBRC had proposed. But the one I'm referring to removing was Amendment C for in last fall's article for the initial stuff that the CBRC had submitted. And it was, it creates a floating quorum to say that quorum will forever be just however many people we have seated. Not half plus one of the available seats, but just half plus one of however many are seated. So if half of our precincts are empty, it won't matter because we'll just take the number that we have and divide it in half and add one, and that's our quorum. So which means that quorum could literally change from 1 week to the next, even within its own town meeting. If somebody got sat, it could change from week to week in town meeting. Anyway, that's the one that it is.
Yeah, thank you. I had a question too, or because I don't know, Paul's not in his office right now, but hasn't the town, and maybe Carolyn, excuse me, Donna McKenzie knows this, hasn't the town public school calendars tried to embrace special holidays, different ethnic groups or religious?
Yeah, I can actually answer that one too. So we added 2 official day off religious holidays to the school calendar. And they have created a new study committee that involves the parental groups, the special ed groups, the teachers unions, the school committee members to study it to see where we are, because as we continue to add religious holidays, it there does become a little bit of a concern. Actually, it's more than a little bit of a concern for the choppiness of the schedule that it creates. Because there are so many holidays, and as much as we really, really want to be respectful of all of them and have them all in there, there becomes a concern about quality of education. Too many days off sporadically, especially for the elementary kids, and the middle school kids starts to just joint their through line of study, and creates a little bit of a problem for the teachers in teaching. So they are trying to look at how we do this, keeping equity in mind, but also keeping quality of education in mind.
Troy, have you been involved in that, or do you have anything to add to that?
No, nothing to add on that specifically.
Yeah. It does kind of bring a question to mind, not specifically on that issue, but maybe just, Troy, kind of on your work. I don't know how to ask this. Like, there's the standard, describe a typical day in the life of Natick's diversity, outreach, and inclusion, which I know there is no such thing as a typical day, but I'm just kind of curious, kind of what is a typical day for you like, or what are, you know, what are some of the types of activities you get involved in? And related to that too, are you a staff and office of one? Do you have resources helping you out? How do you interface with the rest of the town?
Yeah.
On to that, my question is very much the same, is wondering, when you say we, you know, I'm sure you're working with people from other departments, so if you could include that as part of your answer. Thank you.
Sure. So yeah, I would say that the days can vary, but they're always busy. I'm I mean, I'm in all honesty, I'm on vacation today, but I feel like the work is ongoing, and being here with you is a great chance to connect. So, you know, whether it's, you know, in-house or, you know, outside, there's continual work in terms of, you know, building relationships. But there's also specific things and initiatives that we work on, whether it's short term or long term. Right now, a big focus has actually been, you know, trying to look at what's happening with town staff. So being able to look at issues around equity and inclusion in terms of town policy, and looking at workforce, all those areas, you know, working closely. So there's a chance I could be working with any department in terms of any issues that they are concerned about that could involve an equity and inclusion lens. Part of it may be to research some materials that could support them with their work. Part of that could be working in partnership with, you know, any departments, whether it's communications, whether it's sustainability. So it's really operating from the perspective that equity, inclusion, and outreach should not work in a silo. That I sort of, this is a little old school, but I operate from that perspective of I am Spartacus. When you know, this is everybody's work. So part of this process is to be able to develop teamwork with various departments, working across departments on whatever issues are connected to issues around equity, inclusion, and outreach. Again, which should be part of the institutional structure. So it's operating in a way that's integrative. There are times where there are particular areas that so even though I am, to answer part of the question, technically a department of one, I work with a wide range of people, whether within staff, across various departments, a wide range of initiatives, as well as working with the public, working with community members. But one has to be able to be thoughtful and mindful in terms of how one approaches it, because there could be such a wide range of issues that no one person could serve, let's say, could do everything in terms of DI in a town. So it's being able to maybe work with some folks in terms of building capacity, in terms of if they wanted to do a workshop, maybe to help them to look at the criteria of what's some of the things that they want to do if they're bringing in other folks, so all those things. So it's a wide range of possibilities. It could be activities that I'm owning or overseeing, but also a big part of what I'm doing is working in partnership with a wide range of people. And then I'm continually connecting folks, connecting folks with others who may have those resources. So my work during my time has been working with the gardening club of Natick, so there's working with Monica on some things, connecting with a wide other. I have partnerships with groups such as Spark Kindness. I went to the anti-bullying forum, and I was actively participating in that process. But part of it is also looking at how you can bring some of these issues into equity, inclusion, and outreach, where young people may be facing identity-based bullying. So again, what are some things that we can do to bring a DEI or EIO, equity, inclusion, and outreach framework into looking at identity-based bullying? I frankly believe that that's an issue that should be elevated and integrated more into equity, inclusion, and outreach, because a lot of young people are suffering in silence. So that's important. I'm looking for ways to forge new partnerships with the school department. So although they have their own folks who do that, but there's still intersections. So part of it is being able to find intersections and to be able to work in coordination and in partnership with a wide range of groups. So yeah, there's more I can say, but I just wanted to just give you a general.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I know Pat has his hand up, but before we go to him, you mentioned the gardening club. Just fascinating, kind of, if you can share, what kinds of work are you doing with them? Or
No, I mean, it's really about forming relationships.
Okay.
So if someone reaches out to me, it's a matter of, let's say, if what are some things we can do to make the club more appealing to a wider range of folks, being able to expand diversity, whether it's gender, it could be a wide range of things, just being able to make what we do more inclusive, which I mention that because I just feel like that's a beautiful connection in terms of intersections that and in fact I brought my children to the recent event that was happening in Natick during the past weekend. Brought my son. But the point is, by building those types of partnerships in a way that's proactive, is important. As I mentioned, also with Spark Kindness, another group that I've had a good relationship with, Natick is United. So it's really working in partnership with a wide range of groups. I've worked well with Athena, when she was doing the work that she was doing. So there's just a lot of good opportunities for collaboration, and again, making sure that that this work is not done in isolation, but it's done in conjunction. And again, I felt support, very early on in coming to Natick. So it seems like it created opportunities for good things to happen. A good example, I would also say, was the March on Washington event that we had last summer. Again, that was a good cross section of folks coming together. Did any of you attend that event? That was a commemoration of the 60th anniversary of the March on Washington in Natick. And we had speakers from a wide range of groups. So it's really about just coming together and recognizing that this is a community effort, and the extent to which we can do that, it makes it a more powerful opportunity for everyone.
Thanks for elaborating on that. Pat,
I have a quick bureaucratic question asking Paul. Paul, does Troy have a seat at the table? Is that how, because don't you and Jillian and some of the other department heads, or don't you meet?
Are you asking myself or Paul?
Yeah, I was asking because Paul has brought this up before as a service officer, as if he's at the table, that.
Just a bit of context to that. Jillian, when she first joined us, I've forgotten exactly what her title was, but it wasn't director. And the group and many others lobbied heavily to get her a seat at the table by treating her as a sorry, just muting Erica, or Ricky, getting feedback.
I had one
So I see that Troy's position is director, but Paul, go ahead, weigh in.
My position is also director and department head in the town of Natick. That hasn't changed. That's been the same since I started day one. And as I explained to Pat once before, I always had a seat at the big people's table until a certain person came into town and didn't think I needed a seat at that table. And I tried petitioning a couple of times. Pat had mentioned it to me, and I said, you know what, I don't need to be given the stuff over and over again. If you don't want me at the big table, there's no good reason why I shouldn't be with the rest of the department heads, directors. But you know what, if I'm not, I got enough work to do to keep me busy. You know what I'm saying? I'd rather help people save lives than sit with a bunch of people in town hall.
Yeah, you're out there actually doing the work instead of
I was
just
just
talking
gonna
about it.
add one quick thing too. In my work or activism in the last dozen years or so, one of the groups I felt really supported by, and they're really powerful in Natick, the various churches and temples and all the the clergy, the people who like Doug and people at First Congregational Church, Pastor Vicky, and just all those people, the new rabbi at Temple Israel. These people are really strong, good leaders, and they help me a lot. I'll say, banging the drum for the environment and so forth.
Pat, I wish I had more of an active role with that group. I'm good friends with my church, which happens to be St. Linus St. Patrick's. The pastor's a good friend of mine. I was talking to him yesterday, reading him my invocation of Memorial Day, Father Chip Hines. But, I wish I had a more active role with that clergy group. I did for a little while with Ian, but then somehow they lost track of me. I lost track of them.
So not to take us too far afield here, but that collection of folks does have a organization. I don't know whether, is it called the Interfaith Clergy?
I think
But-
they had a slight name change recently,
But-
but it's an interfaith
Yeah.
clergy association. of
But to
some
cut to
sort.
the chase, we can certainly make known to Reverend Cindy, for instance, at First Congregational, who was very active in that group, that both you, Paul, and Troy, unless you've already had interactions with that association, to Pat's point, they that's an affinity group for you that would be very well aligned with the things that you're trying to promote and accomplish in town. So if you haven't already connected with them, let us know and we can put you in touch.
Please do, Doug, on my behalf.
Let us know, put you in touch. Yeah. Let's see, there are hands up at Metro Works and also Tom. I also, I'm gonna have to mute Ricky. We're getting a lot of feedback from you. Are you trying to?
Yeah, Ricky is gonna be muted.
Ricky, you need to come off mute, I think, if you're trying to speak, but we're getting feedback from you. Now she appears frozen.
She's frozen. Oh, there she, wait.
I think maybe it's very bad connection. Ricky, are you trying to say anything?
Yeah, she is, but she's in line.
Yeah, if you want to, yeah, there you go. Oh, one more time. Troy, have you met Ricky yet?
Yes, I have. Yes, I
Ricky's a
have.
force to be reckoned with.
Good to see you.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Ricky, your connection, I think, is very sporadic.
Yeah, you're freezing and unfreezing. And...
All right. While she's working on that, Tom, do you want to jump in and ask your question?
You need to unmute him.
Well, he can unmute.
He can do it.
Muted, okay.
Yeah.
I was just curious, Troy, you have not mentioned diversity in all your discussions today. You've mentioned equity and inclusion, but you have not mentioned diversity. Why is that?
I actually have mentioned diversity a few times in the presentation and in other contexts, but I'm happy to answer a more specific question. But I always bring diversity head on. I don't avoid it, and I think it's critical. But I would love to address any nuanced question that you have in relation to diversity.
No, I was just, it seemed to me that you were saying equity and inclusion, but you were not saying diversity. I was just curious, that's all.
Yeah, I said it throughout the presentation. Yeah, I mentioned DEI, I mentioned tax on DEI nationally.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's critical. I think it's critical and it's important. And it's also happy to bring it on, and talk about it. It's an important area and it's critical to the work. But you may have heard me mention equity, inclusion, and outreach because it's the actual title of my position, so that naturally comes in.
All right, thank you.
Yes.
Martin, the hand is up there at MetroWorks. So someone has.
Yeah, I think my question. I think there's something going on with the muting, but I'm trying to deal with it anyway. Yeah, he keeps getting unmuted though.
Yeah, Ricky, do you want to try? Oh.
I think she was on the phone, so I muted her back again. It's hard to keep up with it all. Anyway, yeah, I think my question was also on diversity, which I was thinking about, which is in terms of town employees, how well they represent the broader community. And I know that the Asian population and the Hispanic population in Natick are rising, making us more of a diverse community. But Black population, as far as I know, is still pretty much stuck at about 2%, so not very diverse. But in terms of the workforce, how well does the workforce represent the diversity that's in Natick? And are you trying to get even beyond the diversity of Natick into the larger Metro West and Greater Boston community in terms of trying to represent some of that diversity?
Yeah, I think in terms of the percentages, and that's the area that we've been looking at closely, that they're comparable. Yeah, so I mean, I think, the goal is to try to, expand, just the process of, what are the things that we can do to, make that, to have a workforce that's going to be more reflective of the town. What's the process that we go through in terms of recruiting? And also, I think, it's being able to just literally, what are the connections that we're building upon? We can look at informal networks that people often use to expand diversity. So but I think, you'll sometimes hear me mention, as we talk about diversity, the other factors have to go into it as well in terms of, creating that sense of belonging. What are the things that will, attract and bring people to stay, at the job, to thrive. All those are factors to consider. And I think, that's really one of the main areas that we're working on right now with the REACH initiative. I mentioned that a little earlier. That's the program where we're working with other municipalities in Boston at the Federal Reserve Bank, looking at what are some of the practices and some of the challenges that other municipalities are facing, but also being able to have a good proactive plan. And those are things that we are working on. So there's a whole, range of things that, we could probably talk in more detail, more on a one-on-one level. But yeah, that's an area to work on. That's an area to work on. But we're working it. We're digging down on that and working on it. So it's a continued process. Let me just say, because I want to kind of just maybe bring a little more element of the conversation piece to this process. I would love to maybe hear from some of you in terms of thoughts, in terms of maybe some things that you would like to see more coming from the township in terms of this. Are there some, and again, I know some folks have already expressed a few things, but what are some areas that are coming to mind for you in terms of what you're seeing and what you maybe would like to see a little more of? And also, how do you see Natick, as a community responding to issues of diversity?
That's a good question. Brinley, I know you got your hand up, but you probably are addressing something else, but then I'd invite others to respond to Troy's question to it.
Mine actually is kind of responding to the last and the new question at the same time. In terms of the diversification of the workforce, I just wanted to say that I know the schools talk about that a lot, and I really do hope that Troy, you and the town can partner with the schools to help them as well, because we talk about that a lot, wishing there was more diverse representation in our teachers and our staff. So I really do hope that is a partnership that can grow with you guys, important for our children. And in that, I would love to see, so like, I love the Holy Festival that's getting ready to come up, with the festivals of colors and the dancing. And I would love to see even more of that. I think that the cultural outreach is part of how we increase awareness and love of and appreciation of diversity. And I'd like to see that happen in with our schools as well. finding ways to incorporate them both, because I do think that, we've done a really great job, and I'd like to see us continue to get even better with that.
Sarah, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, so in terms of the question of, outreach, and a question you asked at the very beginning, Troy, what keeps you up at night? Definitely one question that keeps me up at night, certainly more on a broader, like a national level than specifically here in Natick, but this issue of how polarized we've become as a country, and we shout at each other, but we don't hear each other. And I wish there was some way, and I don't have an idea for you, this is just a wish of a way that we could start to talk with each other instead of past each other. And I'm thinking specifically of, I think broadly, those of us on this call are very supportive of diversity and inclusion and equity and outreach, but the people who hear that as a woke term that we need to shut down, we do need to be in conversation with those people and try to get past this level of this thinking this is a threat. And I don't know how we do that, but just to throw it out there, I wish we could find a way.
Yeah, not definitely share those concerns.
Yeah. Martin, someone else at MetroWorks?
Yeah, just to jump from the very lofty big picture question Sarah asked right back into the weeds on details. Troy, you were saying, did we have ideas for how we might diversify the Native workforce? And I know that there's a lot of thought now about where we advertise jobs, right? So what groups are you reaching that will see that you're looking for a certain position? But another area that the library's looked at is the job descriptions themselves, right? What are you asking for? What credentials? And are those really necessary? Are they a barrier, sometimes an obstacle? And I know in certain fields, for instance, in the schools, credentials are very highly regulated, often on the state level. But in other parts of the town, they aren't maybe. And some parts of job description, like how many years of education, what level you got to, some of that is just sort of legacy language. And I don't know how often job descriptions are again looked at through that lens of DEI, and how could we change things to not lower the bar, but really consider what skills are necessary, and maybe what life experiences might be just as good as 2 years of higher ed. So I hope the town is looking at that piece of it too.
Yes, no, those are most definitely the questions that we are asking. And one hopeful thing that I'm seeing is that I'm working more closely with human resources, in terms of partnering, in terms of being able to weigh in on policies and processes, and looking at how we can improve those processes. All that is, definitely being looked at. Yeah, so I'm encouraged to see, the work that we're doing there. So it's still more to, we're getting started more deeply in that area, but I think we're heading in a good direction.
Good. Rick, you get your hand up.
Yeah, I can't find any hand raise. Oh, there it is. Okay.
Yeah, your hand.
Thank you. I couldn't
I was
find.
going to compliment you on raising both hands there.
Well, anyway, all right. Just a quick thing. You mentioned at one point connecting more people from into town, and as a member of a transportation advisory committee, which has basically been defunct for a year and did nothing last year, it's now reviving a bit, I think. And one of the questions that's been floating out there, and I know the select board, a couple of select board members have looked at this and talked about it, is transportation between West Natick and, downtown Natick, the Common, etc. They're just, the road system doesn't favor bicycling particularly well. You have to go through some nasty intersections. You can get on the train and get off at the next stop. I don't know if many people would realize that, and nobody's ever going to ask you for a ticket. But it still feels like it's not a feel good kind of a thing. It doesn't pick you up on the curb. So I guess this isn't so much a question just as an invitation perhaps to be a guest, speak with us at an upcoming Transportation Advisory Committee meeting, assuming there is more than one. So love to have your input on that and your help with that, and maybe bring us into conversation with some people who have thoughts on it.
Yes. Let me just ask you, have you communicated at all with Morgan? He is in the economic development area, and he focuses specifically on issues of transportation. He's a good person to connect with. That's Morgan Griffith.
Okay, personally not, but thank you for that reference already. Thank you.
Yes, and I know he's also looking at things from a diversity equity lens. He's a member of the REACH group, so so I know that's something that he's concerned about as well. So he's a good resource to connect with. And if you email me, I can also send you his email.
Okay, if I can't find it, I will. Thank you, Troy.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. Thank you for that connection, Troy. We are approaching 10:30, which has become kind of our semi-official ending time. I really want to thank you for joining us on your day off. Although I do like to think, and I'm thinking this way about our local minister, who also would have to join us on her day off to meet our Monday meeting schedule, that being an invested member of the community, I'm going to take it on good faith that you wanted to be here anyway on your day off. But
I will give an affirmative yes, and in fact, this allowed me to have even more of a focus on it. And so no, I've been looking forward to it. As you see, I got my suit on, and I'm happy to be here. So.
Yeah, and I guess one takeaway I've gathered from this morning, from some of your remarks, is that your process of actively engaging in discussion with as many groups as possible. I think, I confess, I came into this thinking that you were primarily focused on various aspects of the town administration and town services, but I think when you mention the gardening club and others, I think I hear you saying anybody and everybody. I would love to talk to you and hear what's on your mind. And so I guess I'm inviting, unless you counteract me, everybody in Coffee with a Purpose, because collectively we're involved in so many different things in the community, to keep you in mind as a resource to help foster communication in these areas. I do see Ricky has got her hand up. I know she wants to speak. You're still on mute, Ricky. If you can try one more time to take yourself off, I'll connect with you outside the call if you're not successful here. I know I really appreciate. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to include you.
Oh, wait, she's on.
Okay.
Okay,
Well,
go for it. Oh,
one more time.
one more time. You're close, Ricky.
There we go. Try speaking now. Oh,
Oh, so close.
Oh, well. Sometimes it just, I don't know, there's something about her connection.
Oh, you're good. Try. Give it a try.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Is ball?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Let me just say, when we were on the subject of the mural and the subject of the town seal, what I understand the drive for connection with the past and also relevance to today. But I think the next step has been to remove the Native Americans from the consciousness of the town by taking them off the seal and off the wall. And I think that was a mistake. And I don't know how we rectify that, but I think it was a mistake. And that's one issue that I've had. I don't know if I have to resolve it, but I don't think removing it from the town seal and putting just the bridge, a bunch of stones there, providing more relevance or more connection to history or more honor to the forebears of this town. I'm sorry, that's how I feel. I'm about that. The other issue that, which frankly I've forgotten in my way to speak, I just forgot about. I think that the town has done a good job in hiring visible representation of what we call minority groups. We've had a long-standing, very successful police chief. We've had minority town, who was it not the was the financial administrator for the town. There are other instances of minority representation at higher levels of authority, and I think the town, the mindset is to promote diversity and inclusion.
Unfortunately, Ricky, we're barely hearing you. I was hoping to stop your video to get it better. We're barely hearing you. I was hoping to stop your video to get it better.
Yeah, I don't know what the thing is wrong, why it's wrong. I think can you hear me now?
It would be better if your video were off, but that doesn't seem to be. It would be better if off. That doesn't seem to be.
Oh, well, I think.
Yeah. I'm gonna go ahead and mute you just for a second. Troy, do you have any response to Ricky's first point there, or? Just for a second. Troy, do you have any response to Ricky's first point?
Yes, Doug, did you, I had a little trouble hearing.
I think the first point was the idea of something we had touched on briefly, the Native Americans being removed from the town seal, and the idea of if we remove the mural from the post office. Her concern was kind of removing them from the visible representation of who we are as a town, and that's a piece of our history. And I'm kind of paraphrasing, but I think that's her concern.
Yes, again, I mean, I think it's a challenging issue, as we had addressed before. The point that I had made before about the mural, I think, context, giving some contextualization of the image is important as well. So, those would be some factors that, I would think would be important to consider.
Take you. I'll reach out to Ricky separately and make sure she gets a copy of the recording. The only way to take care of the audio issue was actually to remove her from the chat at this point, which was unfortunate. But in any event, yeah, again, thank you for joining us, Brinley. Real quick.
I was just going to say, I couldn't find exactly the references you were referring to, Doug, but I did put several links in the chat that were talking about what Lincoln Alabali is doing, and some of his articles. And there's one chat that's from last year, something he did last year, but if you scroll down on it, it's got live links to the video and his blog, which seem to be updated.
Awesome. Thank you, as usual, for your adding all of that to the chat.
She's a piece of our tech support team.
In terms of upcoming sessions, just a quick update. I had put on the notice here that next week was in flux. We've been juggling speakers a bit lately. We were going to have the new minister for our First Congregational Church, Reverend Cindy Worthington Berry, and she still wants to speak to us, but we're going to push her off a bit to make room for Patrick Conaway, who will be talking to us about the Actors Company of Natick, who has an all black and brown production coming up in August. We were originally going to do that talk as part of our Juneteenth week speakers. But rather than add that in, we wanted to devote June 17th, that Monday, to all Juneteenth related things. So we'll give Patrick next week to talk about his production and other things his actor company is doing. And then we'll get Reverend Cindy probably sometime in July. Troy, I usually I can ask you offline, but I'm not sure if you're added to our mailing list or not yet, but if not, would you like to receive notice of our general schedule so that you're welcome to join, obviously, whenever you'd like?
Sure. Yeah. Thank you.
Good. Okay. And Paul, I think I see your hand up.
Yeah, I'd like, you don't mind, I like 15 minutes just to remind people of the very historic event taking place at Memorial Field on Memorial Day. Remind the folks in Natick, this is history. This is honoring those who died after World War II, were killed in action from Natick. I think this is very important history for Memorial Day and for the residents of Natick.
Okay. So did you say you want to have some time, say, on next week's session to talk a little bit more about that?
It is on Memorial Day, if you don't mind.
Okay, we typically don't have a session on Memorial Day itself, only because
I don't want
Vincent.
Memorial Day. I'm too damn busy doing events and services in Natick.
Exactly, right. Yeah, we're not, yeah.
I'm
So,
asking for a little prelude to the events, that's all.
yep, yeah. Next week when we open with that, since we're already at 10:30 now.
Thank you, Doug and Sarah.
Yep.
I want to thank Troy. Thank you. I'll see you walking on the common. And
All right.
we'll bump
Good to see you. And thank you all for this opportunity to connect, and look forward to working with you moving forward.